Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lunch with Lisa. It's been a little while, so I'm very excited to be here. It is almost winter now in Santa Fe, and oh my goodness, I guess my husband keeps reminding me that it's fall, but I feel like it's winter. When from morning to night, I was suddenly pulling out all of my winter clothes, and here I am. So it is wonderful, wonderful to be back. And I have a great, great subject for you all today. So I'm very excited to talk about this. Last weekend, I want to start by saying I offer a 12-week coaching program for women who want to find true love now. And this program is called Emotionally Naked Dating. And once the women complete the 12-week course, if they still want to continue working with us, we have two other programs that we offer. And one of them is called SSW, which stands for the Sisterhood of Self-Actualized Women, where we deepen the work that they did in our initial course. And they take it out into the rest of their lives, and we show them how to find a guardian of their soul. And this is my husband on my Facebook Live, making a guest appearance. And then the other thing that we do is we have a second. Hi, Elizabeth from England. So good to see you. So then we have a second program that is our Mastermind Program, and that's where everybody gets to work directly with my husband and me. And so we do all of the coaching and all of the group sessions and everything in that program. So this past weekend, we had a wonderful, wonderful event. And I think across the board, everybody who attended came back and said it was so transformational for them, which was very, very, very exciting. And so I wanted to talk about that and share a little bit about what we did and share about what the subject matter, which actually became a really, really, really interesting topic. We talked about anxiety. And there are many, many, many kinds of anxiety. Nothing in our lives seems to bring up as much anxiety as dating and finding love. It seems to be a part of life that it doesn't matter how calm and cool and collected you are in other parts of life. Dating and the search for love bring up a kind of anxiety like no other. And women who feel very calm and feel very capable in other parts of their life, when it comes to this part of life, they're lost. And so we actually do many things to try to avoid having to date because it is so stressful. So this is what's called situational anxiety. Let's just talk about first. Anxiety is a fear. It's a feeling of fear, dread, and uneasiness, typically about a future event with an uncertain outcome. So anxiety is a feeling of fear, dread, and uneasiness. I can't say that word. Typically about a future event with an uncertain outcome. And I think dating fills that bill. Now, the thing about dating in particular, when you're relatively calm in the rest of your life and you feel very much in control, this is called situational anxiety. So it's anxiety that only happens under certain situations, like dating. Or maybe you have fear of flying and you only feel anxiety when you think about getting on an airplane. That is what is known as situational anxiety. The great thing is you probably feel fine in all these other, in your work, with your kids, with your girlfriends, making friendships. Other situations do not bring this up, but dating does. And part of that is because we've had so many failures and heartaches, and we have done our very, very best to try to navigate dating or, relationships we've made the wrong choices. We've found ourselves with partners who turned out not to be who we initially thought they were. And we got hurt. We got our heart broken. And juxtaposed against being so capable in other parts of our lives and priding ourselves on being the kinds of women who can do almost anything we put our minds to, it is extremely stressful to get out and date and put ourselves in a situation where we feel so out of control. Women who are capable and independent and don't like asking for help or feeling out of control are going to do everything they can to subconsciously avoid having to face this part of life. And so what many of you are doing right now is you're telling yourself, it'll happen when it'll happen. God will bring this person to me. But we're putting, you may be putting very little focus on actually making it happen. You get busy. You may even tell yourself, I'm going to get out and date, or you get on an app, or you sign up, post a profile on a website, and then you get on there and immediately you get off because you don't like the people you see. It's not working for me. We find all kinds of excuses. So there's a lot of ambivalence in dating that really underneath that ambivalence, we have all of these excuses or things that sound very logical. Oh, well, I tried online dating and it didn't work for me. I get up, I get dressed up, and when I go out, I always go out with the intention of meeting someone, but we're not really making an effort to engage with men, sit next to a single guy, open ourselves up. And so we're just kind of saying that we want it to happen, but then we make all these other choices, or we get very easily discouraged, and it never happens. I know that when I was turning 40, and I have talked about this before, it really was my turning point where I realized, it hit me, oh my God, you're going to be 40 and single. And I never imagined that for myself. I thought, oh, I'm going to meet somebody. I was going to school. I was involved in a lot of spiritual programs and personal growth programs, and I socialized quite a bit, but I was single. And if I was being honest with myself, I had never really had, even though I was with my ex-husband for a total of 13 years, I had never been in the kind of relationship I truly wanted, not one I was proud of, with a man who I adored. And, I loved my ex-husband, but it was a highly dysfunctional relationship. And I stayed in it way, 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 way too long. And then I had a couple of lovely, of boyfriends who were wonderful men. I'm not, putting them down. I chose to be with them, but I knew that none of them really, in my heart of hearts, was my future husband, my future partner, my life partner, the man that I really saw myself with. So when I was turning 40 and I was still single, I realized that I had to be proactive in this part of my life. If I were to keep doing what I had been doing, then I was going to wind up being single, or at the very least, I would have wasted some of the best years of my life. The thing was that once I got out there and I put myself online, I started to see how much anxiety I really had in this part of life. And until I stopped and decided that I had to face this part of my life and do something about it, and not quit, not find excuses for why it wasn't going to work, not dabble and then, say, oh, it's not meant for me, or it'll happen when it happens, or I'm just going to leave it to fate. But to actually face it head on meant that I came right up against a wall of anxiety that I didn't even know existed. And what I saw was that I had been running away from it. I had been so afraid to really look at my fears in this part of life, because the truth was, it wasn't just that I had been unlucky or I had made bad choices. The kind of men that I really saw myself, those men were not attracted to me. I wasn't connecting with them. And if I was being honest with myself, they were out there. There were wonderful men, handsome men, successful men, men that I found interesting and would have loved to have dated, but I was afraid to go for it. I was afraid to really go for what I wanted, because then it would mean, if I actually tried and failed, that maybe I was unlovable. Maybe I couldn't have what I really wanted. And so facing that was scary. And it brought up tremendous anxiety for me. And I had to walk through it. I had to face it so I could get to the other side and find what I call the guardian of my soul, the man that I would spend my life with, a man who I was proud to fall asleep next to wake up to every morning, to walk into a room next to this man, to go on vacations, to sit outside on our porch and just watch a sunset or share a glass of wine. It took a long time, and I had to face myself in order to be able to make that happen. And this is what we're running away from. We make up stories. Oh, I deserve this, and I want such and, this and this and this in a relationship, and that's what I feel like I deserve, and I'm not going to settle. Well, nobody's telling you to settle, but if you're not connecting with those men, and you don't have or have never had the kind of relationship you want, there's something blocking you, something that you're afraid to face. And that fear manifests as anxiety. It manifests as anxiety. So here's some things to know. Your brain's job isn't to make you happy. It's to protect you from danger. Your brain is wired to protect you from getting hurt, from danger. And so we don't even realize this, but we needed in order to survive, people needed to fit in. We needed to fit into society. Getting out and dating and facing all of that rejection doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. It is scary to meet somebody that you really like and that you start to have feelings for and get excited about, and then turn around and have that person not be excited about you or want to go further, and explore a relationship with you. It's scary to do that. And that kind of rejection speaks to the core of who we are. And nobody wants to feel like they want something that somebody else doesn't want, that they're, not good enough for the other person. This is what we tell ourselves. We don't know how to deal with that. And so our brain is there to protect us from that. And so subconsciously, we have a voice in our head that talks us out of things, that finds excuses not to do the things that feel risky, that feel like it might jeopardize our sense of self and make us feel badly about who we are. So rejection is seen as a threat to our survival. If we were rejected in society, we would feel like an outcast. And if you were outcast from society, back in the day, you couldn't survive. You literally had to fit in. And even in, if you go back to high school, we needed to fit in. It felt horrible to be the person who didn't fit in, who was an outcast, right? I don't know about any of you. I was bullied when I was in grade school, and I felt like an outcast. So for me, it was really awful because I had actually been through that. I had been teased and bullied as a kid. So I actually had evidence of what that was like to be an outcast from everybody else and to feel like I was on the outside and they were on the inside and like there was something wrong with me. And that was a horrible feeling. So then when I went out and dated, it didn't make it, any more exciting or appealing to me to want to go out and have to go on dates and sit across from men and get rejected. And what I had to learn how to do was I had to learn how to navigate that rejection and really be able to sit with my anxiety. And then once I was on the other side of the anxiety, really ask myself, Lisa, what's going on? Are these guys just not the right guys for you? Are there things that you may need to look at in yourself? Maybe you're not outgoing enough. Maybe you're talking too much about yourself. Maybe you don't listen well enough. Maybe you don't get excited enough about them, right? So once the anxiety passed, I was able to then look at my own behavior and I had more choices. But anxiety just becomes this wall that pushes love away. It literally causes us, it's a wall of fear and it causes us to push love away. So what does cause anxiety? Well, facing fears and things that we don't know how to navigate and feeling uncomfortable because we don't feel like we know what to do. So especially for strong, independent, successful, capable women, it feels horrible to suddenly go out and date and feel like we're 15-year-olds, right? That we're 15-year-old girls, and suddenly here we are, we've built up this whole image of being a strong, independent woman who wants a man but doesn't need a man. And then we're out there in the dating world, we put ourselves on an app and we're not getting, nobody is right swiping on us that we really want to go out with. We see those guys, but they're not swiping on us. And there goes this whole self-image that we've spent so long building up in our careers and in the rest of our lives. So it can be very, very, very stressful. But here's the thing that you all need to know. Scientists have shown that external factors have little to do with your level of anxiety and happiness. So scientists have shown that external factors have little to do with your level of anxiety and happiness. So something may happen in your life and you may start to feel anxious, but it's not the actual situation that is causing that anxiety. It's the story you are making up about what's happening that's actually causing you to spiral. So if you see a great guy or you go out on a date with a guy that you really, really, really like, and he doesn't call you back again, you are going to make up a story about that. You can tell yourself, I'm not good enough, or he didn't find me attractive, or you could ruminate about the date and pick up on, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that, or I should have dressed differently. I was overdressed for the date. You are going to make up a story and blame yourself for what happened. Or you might tell yourself a story like, he's not my guy. I gave it my best shot. I was as charming as I could possibly have been. And we didn't connect. And I want a man who's as excited about me as I am about him. So I guess I need to keep dating. So the first story is going to perpetuate and deepen and that anxiety and cause you to spin out and feel badly. And it's going to start to affect subsequent dates. And the second story is going to make you feel better. It's going to empower you because you can be in the moment and let it go and move through it and keep going and be optimistic and look toward the future. So it's not what happened or what's happening. It's what you're telling yourself about what happened. So one of the problems is, with happiness or with anxiety, which are linked, we think that we'll be happy when we achieve a particular goal. But what happens is once we reach that goal, we almost always revert to our original level of happiness. So we all have a set point. We actually have a set point that was learned, that is genetic and inherited from our families. In fact, I was talking to a client and she said she was watching a video by Esther Perel. And Esther Perel said, look to your family. How open, how receptive, how was your family growing up? Were they open to other people? Did they welcome outsiders and strangers? Or was your family very closed, like mine was? My family was very, very, very closed to outsiders. Growing up, I remember when my grandmother, I'd have a girlfriend over and my grandmother would make us lunch or something. And she would always make sure to give my brother and me more food than our guest. And she was always making sure that we had more. And to me, that always seemed weird. I would have thought that if you were having company over, you would want your company to get, the bigger slice of pizza or, whatever. But my family was always very suspicious of outsiders, and it was always protecting us, against any invasion from the outside. I don't know how else to say it. And it was just always quite strange to me. Something about that never felt right. But I think, I grew up that way. And so I was disdainful of outsiders. I wasn't comfortable. I had girlfriends who would come over and they'd like go right to the refrigerator and open it up and grab a can of soda or something. And they were just all, they felt right at home. And I used to look at them and I was a little shocked by that kind of behavior because I could never have walked into their house and gone into their refrigerator and just pulled out some food or gone into a cabinet or whatever to see what was there. But I actually had friends who could do that. And it was so wild to me to see that kind of behavior. I was always very respectful of what was mine and what was yours. And that's how I was brought up. In some ways, I wish I had been brought up in a family that was much more open and free and receptive, but it wasn't. And so we really do inherit from our families this happiness set point. And so even when you may think, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet my guy and I'm going to find this wonderful man, and then everything's going to be fine. I'm going to be so happy and life is going to just be perfect. And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You're going to tell yourself these stories, you're going to go right back to that set point and you will just have that immediate bump in happiness, but then you will go right back to your set point, your happiness set point. So how do you overcome anxiety? How do you guys start to actually deal with this? Because it is it's going to stop you. It's going to prevent you from moving forward. And those negative voices that are programmed and so loud in your head are going to keep holding you back. They're going to keep you from dating and taking risks and opening up on dates and connecting with men and being, more alive, more sensual, more confident on dates. And what'll happen is you're going to keep reinforcing those negative feelings because you'll dip your toe in, you'll get rejected, and you'll go right back to that happiness set point and you'll quit. And you'll just tell yourself it's going to happen. And then you make up all these spin all these positive scenarios, but then you don't actually take action to make it happen. So how do you overcome anxiety? The first thing is you need to reprogram your mind. You've got to reprogram your mind. And this takes awareness, right? You have to start to become mindful. And we hear a lot about mindfulness, but you have to become mindful. It is the only way to break a pattern. So the first thing you have to do is admit to yourself that, yes, I have anxiety in this part of my life. I am afraid to put myself out there, to really open up my heart and get rejected. And I'm terrified of doing that. I want a phenomenal relationship. I really want to have my dream and I want to go for it. And I'm ready to face this anxiety. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you're anxious or you're avoidant. Both of these are considered insecure attachment styles. And what we find is even the women who are avoidant and push love away are underneath that is anxiety, is the fear of intimacy, of rejection, of opening up, of being seen or not being seen, of being controlled by a man, of giving up their independence, and of not being enough or being too much. So you have to reprogram your mind. And it starts with first admitting that you have anxiety, that yes, you are afraid. This is scary. And that you have been avoiding it for all these years because you're terrified of being rejected. So the first thing you need to do when you start to feel anxious is you need to start to identify what anxiety feels like in your body, because it starts as a feeling. It can start in the pit of your stomach. You can start feeling jittery all over. You can feel numb. Sometimes anxiety can just come, show up as numbness. But you have to start to identify what it feels like in your body. That's the first thing. So the second thing, admitting that you have anxiety. And then the second thing is being able to identify where you feel it in your body, right? Then the next thing you need to do when you feel anxious is nothing. 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 You want to sit with your anxiety. So you just need to condition yourself to stop and not react. Just sit with it. Once you're aware of what's happening, breathe. Just sit and breathe. If your mind starts making up stories, let those thoughts float by like you do in meditation, just like clouds. They'll come up. We're always creating stories. It's hard to stop the mind from doing that. But just let those ideas, those thoughts, whatever, float by and breathe. And what you need to do is remind yourself that this is just fear. It's false evidence appearing real. That's all you're feeling is fear. False evidence appearing real. Keep focusing on your breath. And what I want you to think about is, in movies sometimes where you see ghosts and the ghost will pass through a person, that's exactly what you're doing. You're letting these feelings just wash through you because it's just energy. Emotions are energy. And until we make up a story about them, they're just energy passing through us. And if we can pause and stop and breathe and not attach a story, they can float by. And this is really important. If you're going to break these cycles, you've got to stop. Once you feel calmer, you can ask yourself, what do I need to do right now to take care of myself? What can I do? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to make myself a cup of tea? Do I need to sit and journal for a bit? And by the way, if you journal, tear out the pages, rip them up, and throw them away. Do not reread what you wrote. That is the exact opposite of what we want to do. So every time you journal and then you sit there and you reread what you journaled, especially if you're upset and you're trying to process through some emotion, you want to just journal, get your thoughts down, get it all out, but do not read it and put it back in. Don't sit there and rhapsodize over how eloquent you were, or, oh my God, that was a horrible experience when, my father, whatever, told me I wasn't pretty as a little girl. And now I'm feeling horrible because this guy never called me again. Probably because he was so handsome and I wasn't pretty. And it all started with my dad. You don't want to go back and reread the story and put all of that back in your brain. You're journaling and getting it out, so you don't put it back in your brain. So what you want to do is you want to journal, take a walk, just sit and meditate and breathe and, and clear your mind and connect to your heart. And a great thing to do is to do some self-forgiveness and self-compassion. So self-forgiveness looks like I forgive myself for judging myself as being ugly. I forgive myself for judging myself as being anxious. I forgive myself for judging myself as being too much or not good enough. And the truth is, I am enough. I am beautiful. And I'm working on being less anxious. So self-forgiveness. Now, many of you are going to want to call a girlfriend, run to your therapist, find ways to talk about this, talk about things and ruminate and go over them and process them. Eventually, peace, the way to make peace is within yourself. And we're always looking outside of ourselves for the answers. I'm going to watch TV. I'll have a glass of wine and numb myself out. I'll go on Google. I'll do some online shopping. I'll plan another vacation that I don't need to go on. You will find a million ways to distract yourself from your anxiety. What you need to do is sit with it, face it, and get through it so you can get to the other side. I was terribly anxious, terribly. And the way I got through it was by walking through it, showing up for myself, learning how not to take things personally, how not to make assumptions, how to find my voice, how to ask for what I wanted and needed from them. But if I kept running away, if I kept being overwhelmed by my anxiety, I had no choice. And what I kept doing when I did that was I ran away. I found excuses. I numbed myself out. So you have to stop in the face of your anxiety and not run away and commit to getting to the other side and learning how to do this yourself. All right, that's what I got for you today. I am Lisa Shield. This has been Lunch with Lisa. I'm so glad to be back. I'm very excited about getting back into the swing of things. We took a little bit of a break. I had my birthday, my husband turned 70, and we actually celebrated our 20th anniversary of our first date and our 18th wedding anniversary. So all of that was wonderful, but now it's back to business. So you will be seeing and hearing a lot more from us in the weeks and months to come. And please, if you like this, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube, rate and like our podcast. Tell your friends, your girlfriends, your sisters and mothers and aunts and uncles and brothers and cousins and girlfriends and guy friends, whoever you know. We really, really, really are committed to making this one of the best podcasts, one of the best broadcasts out there. What else do I want to tell you? We have the most beautiful new website that we spent about 1.5 years working on. It is lisashield.com. Please go and check it out, and please go to my success stories page, because that's where you're going to see all of the women who have met their guys through their work with us. You will see hundreds of testimonials from our former clients, and we would love for you to become a client. If you are interested, you can do that on the website. All over the website, you will see the button to click to watch my free 45-minute presentation. Click that button, go to the page, sign up, watch the presentation. If you like what you hear, stay to the end, because that's where you can book a breakthrough call. And you can speak to me or a member of my team about how we can show you how to find the guardian of your soul in just 90 days. In 90 days, you could know more about love and men and dating and relationships than most people will ever know in their lifetime. So please check that out. Jump on a call with us. And finally, if you would like us to talk about a particular topic or just share your thoughts with us about how you like the podcast or what you feel we could do differently, I would love it if you would drop me an email at podcast@lisashield.com. I'm Lisa Shield. This has been an absolute pleasure, and we will see you next week, or I will. I don't know what's on the schedule, but I'm sure we have something wonderful planned for you. So have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.